You're very welcome to the Irish Political Roundup with me, Paul Brophy. I'm flying solo this evening. Unfortunately, my colleague Roisin Cleric is, but we're going to plough on ahead and we're going to keep the momentum going that Roisin has built up uh, with this channel over the last number of years. So today we're talking about a subject that is very, very important for life and for everything else. It's water. Um, 71% of the earth is covered in water, and only 1% of it is drinkable. So means that is a lot of work to get to that stage where water can be drinkable. But water not only is essential for life, it's an essential for infrastructure, particularly housing, and it's also a big issue for our farmers as well. So to talk about water and the entity that is Irish Water, the good and the bad. Um, we have two. We're delighted to be joined by Cork North Central TD, Deputy Ken O'Flynn, who is a TD for the Independent Ireland Party, and prior to getting elected to the Dáil in 2024, Ken was a member of Cork City Council for over over 15, 16 years. Ken, if
Too
I'm
long,
if I'm
too
correct,
too long since 2008. Since 2008,
since
a lifetime.
2008. And also joining us is um, someone that our viewers will be very familiar with is former Fine Gael councillor here in Kilkenny, Patrick O'Neill. Patrick was a Fine Gael councillor from 2014 to 2024, and Pat was also a general election candidate for Fine Gael in the 2020 general election. Gentlemen, you're both very welcome to the Irish Political Roundup.
Thank you very much.
Good to be here, Paul.
Um,
Thanks again.
Absolute. So water, Pat, I forgot to mention as well, you're also a beef farmer as well here in Kilkenny. So from I just want to bring Pat O'Neill in on this. And Pat, uh, we were talking off air as well. In the area you're from, Bennis Bridge in 2021, it was earmarked for a water treatment plant, and now, as of very recently, um, it looks like that's not going to be built until 2029, I think, at the latest. So that's
The
like
earliest, yeah, like
potentially nearly 10 years of a gap. And as Ken said, if you can't build that water treatment plant, you're not going to be building many houses in Venice Bridge.
yeah, like look, Ken has mentioned look similar cases what's going on here in Kilkenny, and obviously I know Bennis Bridge inside out is where I'm from, and like I lobbied for 7 years with Irish Water as it was at the time to because no house can be built in Bennis Bridge now on the public water scheme be between drinking water and wastewater. There's no connections available, so everything now is done by a private well, and if a developer had to come in and do anything they need to go on a private well, etc. But they actually can't do a mass scale housing building project without an upgrade of the wastewater capacity, which is the main stumbling block. So funding is approved there. I think it's about 4 million in 2021. Great news. I think from memory, I think it was maybe due to be completed at the end of 2026. So we're in 2025 now, and they haven't even started the planning, design or planning process. So they're saying now 2029 for start of construction. That's going to be probably another 2 years to complete. So that's 2021, 2031 completion if everything goes according to plan now. So that's 10 years at a minimum from the day the funding has arrived, from being approved to the actual completion of the project in a best case scenario. Now,
Yeah,
you look at it from the effects of the people on the ground there. So Bensbridge is a village of about 700 or 800 people, parish maybe about 1600. There was a housing development built in the early 2000s here, and that probably housed my generation maybe in the 5 years above my age group. But I'm
mm,
37 now. So my age group down, let's say, there's going to be 20 or 30, 25 years of people there that have no opportunity to buy a house in their own parish or village in a more affordable scale because now the house price in Bennett due to location, close to Kilkenny City, are absolutely gone through the roof. And the housing list in Bennett has probably grown faster than any other village or parish in Kilkenny in the last 5 years. And all these things are basically down to water infrastructure. And every rural parish in Kilkenny is having the same issues. Like we're
mm,
having great ideas about developing our big towns and our cities, and all this fancy stuff around environmental bits and pieces that go around with it.
mm,
But our rural towns and villages are literally going to die unless the water infrastructure is upgraded. And it hasn't. And Irish Water, people will, the water charges movement and all it was. People don't think with their head here. this is going to affect every town and village in the county here for maybe €160 a head. Look, I know I can afford it. Look, fair enough. Maybe some can't, but there has to be some kind of way of, as Ken mentioned, Irish Water is underfunded. There's no idea what they're doing because they don't have the money to do anything. They're waiting for handouts from government. We say we're paying our tax for it already. We are, but it's only barely filling the gaps in the system as it
Yeah.
is. We're serious about developing this country and our towns and villages. We need to invest in water first and foremost before we can even get any building blocks on the ground.
Oh, absolutely. We were talking to Councillor Willie Batten who's a councillor in Carlow, in his town of Tullow. They are beginning a kind of a pipe restoration project, and they're replacing pipes, cast iron pipes that are 100 years old and were full of rust. So you think people were, that's the water people were drinking, and that's just one example of the challenges that are facing Ireland as regards our water infrastructure, which is so important.
We have the same challenge here in Cork City. We have an awful lot of Victorian pipes that are still there. A number of them are, as you mentioned, full of rust and gunk and the rest of it. And of course, the chemical process of cleaning the water and putting it together has had its challenges as well against those pipes. We're now looking at €500 million need to be spent in Cork City alone to replace all that pipe work. Now, the problem that we have in Cork City, which is similar to what your colleague has in Tallow, is the situation where we have people that can't turn on their washing machines. We have loss of water going on for 3 to 5 days, and at times we have people that can't take showers, can't bathe children. You put in the bedding into the washing machine, you don't know if it's going to come back out white or a rust color. You have businesses that are connected with their mains, such as the rice machine, their coffee machines, their tea, and all those facilities. Your washing facility for dishwashers. Many businesses have been very badly affected by this, and there's parts of the north side where you kind of say to yourself, Jesus Almighty, I won't go for a cup of coffee up there because I don't know what's coming out of the pipe. We just can't guarantee it. We can't guarantee it in our own houses. And Irish Water's answer to this has been flushing the system continuously. It hasn't worked for 2.5 have come back and told us, look, we need to replace all these pipes. We need €500 million. But at the rate that Irish Water is working at the moment in pipe replacement in Cork City, we're probably looking at 90 years before every piece of piping is replaced. At the current, even if they had the money in the morning, 90 years, which is staggering, And an awful lot of these things that I'm mentioning now, it wasn't that long ago we were watching TV ads asking us to send €2 or €5 a month to sink a well somewhere in Africa under one of these charities, and you're having exactly the same stories of children drinking dirty water, people with visual impairments that can't see the color of the water coming out of their tap, people that are already with the pin to their collar when it comes to how much money you have in your budget, and now you're adding bottles of water from Tesco's or for Dunn's or whoever you're buying your bottles of water from. It makes life an awful lot tougher for people, and people are sick to death of getting into the shower and not knowing what's going to come out of it, and there's been serious concerns when it comes to how they manage this water treatment plant and the new water treatment connection that came from Ballincollig over into the city. I won't bore you with the minutiae of that, but there's serious concerns
you did
about
speak in
what
the Dáil.
happened.
You did speak in the Dáil recently about I think there was constituents in your
I was disappointed with
there
the
were
answer I
5
got.
days without water.
Yeah,
There were 5 days without water.
That's not an isolated story. That's a story that I could tell. Residents are without water 2 or 3 days, 48 hours, 72 hours on a very regular basis now in Cork. With no access to fresh water, no tankers being delivered. I don't get it. There's no customer services there. There's nobody taking responsibility. And then for the minister to come along and I'm not having a minister bashing here now, but look, his answer was, I won't look at closing down Irish Water or restructuring Irish Water. It's too big to fail. And there was no efficient answer to, will you not hand it back to the local authorities when we have a bit of manoeuvring and a bit of talking? I've always believed that Cork City Council and Cork County Council should have the one water authority. If you look at what happened when Michael Martin set up the HSE a number of years ago, he got rid of all the Southern health boards. And now we see their regional health boards appearing now again. We're going back to that system because that system worked, because you had local knowledge on that system. And now we're going back to that again. But just because something isn't a good idea, but is very expensive and would cost a lot of money to dismantle, it's never the wrong time to do the right thing. And I think the right thing for certainly my region, I'm not quite sure, I can't speak for Kilkenny, but for my region would be to have it back under the control of the local authorities, and the two local authorities working well together and being able to negotiate with the builders to start building water treatment plants and treatment services again. And that worked incredibly well. And that I work on the principle KISS, you keep it simple, stupid. And when you create these monsters such as the HSC, such as the Department of Health, such as the Department of Education, I think it wasn't too long ago when they described the HSC as Angola. You are creating exactly the same problem now with this big structure again that is not fit for purpose, that doesn't have the drive of what we'll say the ESB had. And is totally underfunded. And any funding that they seem to be getting, the significant funding that Irish Water received in the last budget, they were told by the Department of Finance to start paying down your debt. No, that did absolutely nothing. That did absolutely nothing for the people of this country who needed new pipes or needed water treatment plants being built.
Absolutely. And do you think yourself, Pat, you saw Irish Water as a councillor, you've seen it now as a farmer. What do you think, is Irish Water as a concept good, or does it need to be, as Ken said, just completely involved?
I think I slightly disagree with Ken that I think there has to be a bit of both. I think I think the concept of Irish Water initially was good, but I think it was handled extremely poorly. The communication was diabolical, politically, media-wise. Everything was just an absolute mess. And I know it's coming out at the tail end of a recession and austerity and everything, and was kind of the real kind of straw that broke the camel's back. And I've never seen protests like it, and probably will never again in Ireland at that time over the water charges. It was absolutely mad when you think back of what went on, and water meters and guys trying to put them in. But we were canvassing around water meters. Like, there was so many. I was new that time and I got elected. There was a lot of great Fine Gael councillors lost their seats over water meters being put in as we were canvassing. You know what I mean? It was so badly put together and handled. But we have to be serious here as a country as how we actually invest in our water. And we've been beating around the bush here for 60, 70 years around water. It's been papering over the cracks, been just patching up bits and pieces. In Ireland, the last 20 years has developed even more than we can even imagine from an infrastructure perspective. And somehow the water is barely keeping going. And you see places in Cork and Kilkenny, every county has cases like this where water is off left, right, and centre for people. Yeah. And it's just, in a first world country, it is absolutely crazy to think about it. But it's like a political taboo in Ireland, even to talk about water and water charges, even or how do we actually fund this idea?
Yeah, exactly.
We have to have a mature conversation about this and go, do we want to just keep doing what we're doing and have water outages, or do we want to actually put something in place here that we can trust? No doubt about it, HSE is an absolute nightmare. I dealt with it for 10 years, couldn't get my head around it, complete mess inside and out. Irish Water has been on a similar path, but I think, as Ken mentioned, with the right thought process and communication, and pull it apart and look at it and go, how do we know what projects need to be done?
Yeah.
We fund it. Do we put in a water charge? Do we charge a nominal amount? Do we charge per usage? What do we do? People have to be real here. There's communities at the moment that are on their knees when it comes to water. I'd say if you asked them in the morning to pay €160, they'd pay it. Where, it's the next parish or the next town could be victim of this in 10 years' time. And it's all just waiting to happen, and we can keep doing what we're doing and we'll keep fighting over it. But it should be cross party here and go, guys, look, if Ireland is serious about what we need to achieve here for our people, water is first and foremost. And I don't really care how it's done, but we get the money. and we do it because we are paying tax, and people like to say, like, it's our tax money being wasted when the water is leaking out of the pipes. You know what I mean? Is it
Yeah.
60% of, is someone to figure like 60% of the water that's treated in Ireland is leaked into the ground? Like, that's insane. And how people can think that that's acceptable is beyond me. You know, I think people are very ill-informed in water and
But
how to.
Patrick, you're right in saying that we do need to have a mature conversation about it, but we also need to be
Mhm.
cognizant of the fact that anyone that's after going into a new house in the last since the establishment of Irish Water has already paid a significant amount of money
Oh,
for the water
100%.
connection charge.
Yeah.
And if you have a house that's not connected, you're averaging now about €6,000 is what it's costing just to be connected to water as well. So, like, let's put away the idea that there's no charge on water. There is a bloody hefty charge.
Yeah. Oh no.
already
Like.
there.
Oh yeah.
But
For you,
we
for
have
those
we
people
have,
and for
and
farmers,
I'm not
thing.
having an argument with you,
Yeah.
but I think you know you're right that there has to be an adult conversation in the room about this, and we have to look at we have to be committed. I'm disappointed with the present administration. Of course, I would say that as an opposition TD, wouldn't I? But I'm disappointed that they didn't introduce an infrastructure minister, because the key to everything in this country, it's going to be the utilities. If we're going to solve the housing crisis, we have to solve the utility problem. And that's as big a crisis. Water connectivity, ESB connectivity, gas connectivity, they're as big a problem as delivering for our towns and for our towns and cities. They're going to be the biggest challenge. I agree with you to have a reasonable conversation around water, and it can't be politicized as it was hijacked by the far left, and people villainized about it. But and I agree with what you said. It was mishandled from day one, from the top down, and miscommunicated very, very much so.